I'm Natalie Kelly. I'm the CMO at Zappi. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. And we're going to talk about pre-game strategy, showing up in cultural moments leading up to the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl remains one of these few moments when culture, conversation, and advertising all come together at once. But increasingly, the brands that win aren't the ones treating it as just a single ad. They're thinking beyond just the ad on the night and treating it as a broader cultural moment. So today's conversation is going to be about what it actually takes to show up in those moments with intention. And Liquid IV is a first-time Super Bowl advertiser this year, and the brand has built a much bigger strategy around how, when, and why they show up before the game, during the game, and after the game. So I'm excited to be joined today by Stacey Andrade-Wells, CMO of Liquid IV, to talk through how they made that decision, the consumer insights behind it, and what other marketers can learn about maximizing moments like the Super Bowl beyond the ad itself. So, Stacey, thank you for being here. Why does the Super Bowl still matter for brands in 2026, especially in an increasingly fragmented media landscape?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm super excited to be here. So big question, like, why do the Super Bowl? There's so many other ways to reach consumers nowadays. Is it still worth it? It feels like Liquid IV has been on this incredible rocket ship of growth for the last several years. And yet there's still so much opportunity for us. If you look at the brand, we've got about 37% national awareness, and our household penetration is still below 20% nationally. And that's for a business that's over $1 billion in retail sales already. So imagine what kind of potential can come from the growth that we haven't even materialized yet. And so for us, it was, well, what is the next logical biggest stage for us to be able to tell our message, shake complacency around hydration behaviors, and really explain to people why Liquid IV is the best solution. So big opportunity for us. We're really excited to be advertising for the first time in the Super Bowl, and we've got an entire story that we're very excited to tell.
Excited for more people to learn about that story, who, if you haven't seen it already, is incredible. So let's talk a little bit about pregame and deciding to enter the big Super Bowl moment. So what consumer insight or tension ultimately convinced you that the Super Bowl was the right stage for Liquid IV?
Yeah, I think, so at the end of the day, it all boils down to the fact that we believe hydration is a universal need. It's something that's relevant for all people. And we had actually done a body of research that showed that 8 out of 10 Americans experience hydration regret, which is, man, I really wish I hydrated better than I do. And I'm seeing the head nods. So yes, it's me too. And so why then don't we change our behavior? And it's because there's just a high degree of complacency. People are moving quickly through their day. They're busy with a lot of things. And our job as the leader in this category is to shake complacency. And so we really wanted to do that by highlighting the 7 signs of dehydration in our campaign. And we'll start with the most obvious one, which is thirst. By the way, if you're feeling thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So, make sure you take care of that. But there's the lesser known brain fog, fatigue, irritability, nausea, headaches, and then the lesser discussed but very visible yellow pee. And we know that 59% of Americans admit that they look at the color of their pee before they flush the toilet. 70% of millennials know that yellow pee is an indicator of dehydration. And in fact, 40% of them have admitted to Googling, what does the color of my pee mean? And we know that more than half of America experiences hydration relief when they see clear or pale yellow color in the toilet, which is like, good on me, I'm hydrating myself, I'm living my best wellness life. And so honestly, this is the very fun, not often talked about insight that anchored the entirety of our storytelling and our campaign. And I think that moment when you're able to identify a human truth that ignites conversation is just fertile creative territory. So we really ran with that.
Wow, that's great. That's wonderful. So I'm curious how you evaluated whether the Super Bowl would advance the brand long-term versus just delivering a short-term spike.
Absolutely. So for us, it's really about both. At the end of the day, certainly we want to build a brand that has longevity to it. A lot of that is making sure that people understand the core message that you're trying to send. Liquid IV over time has become unanimous with hydration. And so reinforcing that message helps us continue to build that brand equity over time. At the same time, of course, we all know this is not a small cash outlay to play in the Super Bowl. And so we really had to approach it from a full 360 standpoint of how do we make sure that this is also effective for the business in the short term. So if you've walked a local Target or a Walmart recently, you're probably seeing our Super Bowl themed displays to make sure people can stock up ahead of the big game. We have a partnership with DoorDash where we're getting product to people very quickly on game day weekend and afterwards. We have an Amazon homepage takeover happening on Super Bowl Sunday. So a truly omni-channel approach to ensure that not only are we building for the long-term sustainability of the brand, but we're delivering in-year results that are very tangible.
And taking advantage of the fact that you're making such a big investment with all the other activations and surround sound and truly integrated campaign. It's really impressive. So the ad itself is only 30 seconds. So how did you think about stretching the value of the investment beyond just that media buy?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're an LA-based brand. So Hollywood is in our backyard. And we said, you know, how would Hollywood launch a blockbuster film? And let's take a page out of that book and let's try it that way. And so actually, we started our campaign with an official soundtrack. And we partnered with EJ, who is the now Golden Globe winning, Grammy winning, Oscar nominated singer-songwriter, lead singer of Huntrix from K-pop Demon Hunters. You probably know it. Your kids probably know it. Your neighbor knows it. Everybody knows it. Her rise has been absolutely meteoric. And frankly, she's just overtaken the cultural zeitgeist in the last several months. We're very fortunate to be able to partner with her, but I think even more so, she's a longtime user and lover of the product and the brand, which makes it that much easier for her to be able to speak authentically about the benefit of hydration. So she actually re-recorded the very famous Phil Collins song, Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now. And we released that as the official soundtrack to our campaign. So I won't show the whole thing here because it is 3 minutes and we have a limited time. But I'll show you the very 15-second tease clip that we dropped on our social media platforms. So we can play that now.
So take a look at me now.
And the internet went crazy.
As they should. And wasn't that the first, take a look. There we have it. Wasn't she the first, it was the first K-pop song, I believe, to win a Grammy as well. So wonderful Korean American artist, and that's just such a cool way to integrate that soundtrack story into the really cool.
Yep.
So what did end up showing up in culture mean to you before the game even kicked off?
Yeah, so I think especially because we made the choice to not release the actual spot until Super Bowl Sunday, we wanted to make sure that we still had opportunities to engage people as we were moving through the weeks leading up to the big day. So the soundtrack was one very big part of that. We were very excited, and when we posted that, we actually made it exclusive to our social media communities. You had to comment in order to get the full downloadable version. We then opened it up to the public and shared it more broadly, but that was a really great moment for us to just dial up a lot of engagement and excitement behind what Liquid IV was doing. And then, of course, any blockbuster film always has a trailer. And so that was the part 2 to our entire journey, which was a really nice way to bridge between EJ's version of our soundtrack and kind of transition us into the creative world that Liquid IV was building for our premiere film on Super Bowl Sunday. So we do have that trailer as well, which we can share with you guys now.
There's so much I need to say to you, so many reasons why. You're the only one who really knew me at all.
So it's just enough to make you wonder, are they really going to go there? And yes, we are really going to go there. So we're very excited. We've held back the actual spot. We're all lovers of the Super Bowl. I think part of the joy is seeing a lot of these ads for the first time. You're in these watch parties with your friends, your family. Like, this is the humor, this is the fun of Super Bowl. And over the years, we've kind of moved away from that as an industry, but we felt it was really important to honor our consumers' experience with our advertising. So the whole country will see it for the first time on Sunday.
I love that. Builds the anticipation and gives us something to look forward to in the game. That's wonderful. So how did consumer input or validation shape the creative direction along the way?
Yeah, so anytime that you play with a somewhat polarizing idea, I think, and in general, honestly, we kind of always make sure that consumers are at the forefront of everything that we do. And so we do a lot of consumer research. And this one started with a round of qualitative research, so some focus groups where we were still evaluating a couple of different potential directions. And then we did several rounds of quantitative research as well, just to make sure that the edit was really landing where we needed it to, that the brand recall was coming through where we needed it to. And I'm not going to lie, honestly, like, there is still some polarization in the consumer research. And that's how we knew we were onto something, because there's people who will find it absolutely hilarious and will love it. And there's a smaller portion of people who maybe may not like it, but you know what? They'll talk about it. And it's going to inspire conversation, it's going to inspire discussion, and our hope is that ultimately it's going to translate to behavior change that is going to help people on their wellness journey and also ultimately drive trial and sales for Liquid IV. So our approach was really, if we're going to do Super Bowl, let's swing for the fences, and we're going to find an idea that's worth talking about.
I love hearing you talk about the polarizing aspects and leaning into knowing that that's a good thing in some cases. So that's really a great insight. So you made the decision not to release the ad, and you also made the decision not to use a celebrity. Can you talk about that and what drove that choice?
Yes. So, we talked a little bit about not releasing the ad ahead of time. I think, for us, again, just goes back to consumer experience and making sure that we can really surprise and delight people in real time, the moment of. Part of what we really pride ourselves is also community management and response. So we want to have fun the day of too. Like, our community management team is going to be ready to answer to consumers, inspire two-way dialogue. So we're going to have a good time with it as well. And then, even though you see EJ as the voice of our official soundtrack, she is not in the actual 30-second ad for Super Bowl. And that was an intentional choice, which is kind of unconventional nowadays within Super Bowl. It's almost hard to come across an ad that doesn't have celebrity talent in it. And we really felt like at some point, as a consumer, you're sitting at home and which celebrity is for which brand and which ad was that? And are they really taking away what you think they are as an advertiser? And does your brand really come to the forefront as the thing that they're going to remember at the end of the day? And frankly, I think the creative challenge of cut through the clutter, inspire engagement, and deliver behavior change, and do that without relying on a celebrity talent is the more difficult creative challenge. So that was actually part of our brief to our creative agency: no celebrity. And I think they've done a great job of finding a new and different way that is actually going to be memorable for people who are watching all these series of ads on game day.
That's right. Yeah, our research shows that 68% of Super Bowl ads do feature celebrities. That's as of last year. And they do, in some cases, distract from brand recall and actually lower the brand recall. So it's how you use them and intentionally and what your goals are as a marketer. So that's great. So let's move on to post-game. So how do you think about pairing that pre-game anticipation with post-game execution to make the moment actually matter for consumers?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think a lot of brands will do the 30-second ad and then they'll call it a day. They're like, oh, we're done. Great. We're on the other side of it. And that's a missed opportunity, because there's so much conversation that is happening after game day. And one thing that we learned in the process of building our campaign is that the Monday after Super Bowl is the #1 day in the year where people call out sick from work. I wonder why.
Guilty.
And so we said, okay, well, we can help with that. And we actually officially now own National Rehydration Day, which is an official holiday now. You do have to submit for that. There's a committee that reviews it. And so it'll come every single year, the Monday after Super Bowl. And for us, it's an opportunity to continue to own the conversation even after the big game is over. So we will actually have our partnership with DoorDash going live, where if you're at home and you're recovering from game day, you can shoot us a DM, you can call a number. We will get Liquid IV to you very immediately so that you can recover and rehydrate. And for those that are navigating return to office and have to go back into work on Monday, we actually have a couple of incredible corporate partnerships where our brand ambassadors will be surprising employees at their corporate office with Liquid IV. We'll be capturing content. It's going to be very fun, exciting, hopefully a bright spot in the day of these people who have to be back at work on Monday the next day.
Love that. So once you've earned attention post-game, what's top of mind in terms of making the product accessible and actionable for consumers?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think there's two things that we're really focused on. Number one is we chose to take the opportunity of highlighting the problem in Super Bowl. So it was our choice to say, do we want to focus on product claims, or do we want to focus on shaking behavior and shaking complacency? And we felt like the most effective and disruptive thing to do was really highlight hydration complacency as part of that big moment. But there's an opportunity then for us to continue that story and really close the loop and explain to people why Liquid IV is the right solution to that problem that we're highlighting. So we actually have an entire content suite that will be going live after Super Bowl that talks about the other 6 signs of dehydration. It talks about the Liquid IV clinical research program, which includes the 12 clinical studies that we've done to date, as well as all the clinical research on our zero hydration product. So a lot of opportunity for us to explain why the scientific superiority makes Liquid IV the best solution to that issue. And then the second piece is we're going to continue to make sure that we're making the product accessible and available to people. So, of course, all of the omni-channel activations that we talked about earlier, the retail displays, but we also have a massive sampling initiative. Last year, we debuted our Hydra trucks, which are Rivians that have Hope hydration stations installed in the truck, which means you can get a wet sample live of Liquid IV wherever you are. And so our sampling trucks will be making their way around the country to make sure that we can give people an opportunity to actually try the product. So very important in terms of the follow through.
Wow. Such a connected campaign. I love it. So from a best practice standpoint, what should brands be planning before game day to ensure that the impact doesn't drop off after Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's really important to go into it with the mindset and the knowledge that consumers are interacting with brands at so many different touch points every single day. So even when they are watching the Super Bowl, they're watching on multiple devices. Like they've also got their phone on them, they're on social media, they're scrolling their feed at the same time that they're watching the commercials. Maybe some of them are at a bar, and that's an opportunity for an experiential moment. So for example, there's certain bars in San Francisco where Liquid IV will be taking over in the bathrooms, and Liquid IV will be available on tap for them in case they want to trade their third beer for a Liquid IV hydration break. And so just the knowledge that there's so many different ways that you can engage with consumers and build that connection with them beyond just a passive linear television ad is a really important way to approach the entire ecosystem of how you're building your campaign.
It's great insight. So given that this is your first time as a Super Bowl advertiser in this game, what advice would you give to other brands who are just doing this for the very first time?
Swing for the fences. Swing for the fences, because I will just say, this is my first Super Bowl ad as well. It's Liquid IV's first, but it's also my first in my career. And it is a very big stage, and there's a lot of eyeballs. And I think when that happens, it can be very easy to say, let me pick something that I know is going to be okay. And if you approach it that way, you will end up regressing to something that will feel like wallpaper on the day of. It'll show up, but it'll be in the background, it'll come and go, and no one will ever talk about it. And then what is the point? Like, why do it if that's the way you're going to do it? And so I think it's an important moment to kind of put a little bit of that to the side and say, this is our chance to do something really interesting. And Super Bowl is the one forum where you almost get that permission to really push the creative boundaries and do things differently because it's what consumers are expecting from you. And so I think like taking that opportunity, with both hands and really going for it is the advice that I would give.
That's great advice. So any surprises along the way or lessons learned beyond swinging big? Anything else that you want to share based on this first experience?
I think the main thing that was interesting for me is just how important it is that the connective threads across the campaign all make a lot of sense. Sometimes when you're building this as a marketer, things are happening at different paces. So certain pieces of the work are happening faster than others, and especially because many of us operate in very fast-paced organizations, we tend to be a bit heads down and, okay, I ticked that, let me move on to the next task and go, go, go. I think especially for something this big, it was really important for us to take a moment to step back and look at it all together. Bring people into a room, calm energy for about 2 hours, and let's just look at how everything is mapping out together and make sure that this journey makes sense for consumers in terms of how we're bringing them from point A to point B. And I think that degree of intentionality is what makes this particular campaign so fun, because you get to see the little Easter eggs along the way as we're building up to the big moment. I'll just give you some examples of that. Liquid IV has a community channel on Instagram, which formerly was called the Living Room, LIV, Living Room. And at some point over the last couple of weeks, it suddenly changed to the bathroom. And nobody knew why. And there were so many, what's going on? Why is the living room now the bathroom? We worked with a number of different influencers on some static photography where all you see is a POV of their face, and it looks like it might be coming from inside a toilet bowl. But we can't be too sure because it's kind of hard to tell. And so just these like fun little nuggets that kind of give people a little bit, but not the whole story, to drive some of that intrigue and excitement. So just making sure that all of those pieces were very intentionally placed was a really big part of what I think has made this successful so far.
Did you have any challenges with getting internal buy-in for this? Because there are many risks, not using a celebrity, not pre-releasing, all of those things. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting internal buy-in?
Yeah, sure. So I think with anything that we do that's this order of magnitude, having the business case for it is really important. And so certainly we did put together, an entire proposal on here's where our brand awareness is today. Here's where our household penetration is today. This is the typical progress that we would see over, a normal quarter. With this kind of awareness that we expect to get at Super Bowl, here's how much of it would be incremental to the audience that is aware of the brand already. And that really helped us get a picture of what is the upside potential of doing something like this. Now, I think the other piece that's very important and was one of the reasons we felt so comfortable leaning in on this is that we have an organization where marketing and sales are very, very closely linked. And I think I've heard a lot of chatter in the past about how sales and marketing are at odds. Sales and marketing should never be at odds. They should be best friends. Like at the end of the day, we're trying to drive consumer trial. We're trying to drive the business together. And so when those forces can come together and move in the same direction, that is really when the business succeeds. And so I felt very confident that we can work with our sales team to go get the right kind of value in market for everything that we're doing. And so I think that was helpful in terms of making the case for short-term growth. I will say, I think a lot of organizations have this typical tension between marketing and finance as well, where there are some CFOs who are far more interested in the short-term revenue potential of these things versus the long-term equity brand building. I am very lucky. I have a wonderful CFO, Johanna Honeyfield. She is very seasoned in the world of CPG. She understands the value of long-term brand building and has been very, very supportive. Obviously, she loves to see the short-term ROI as well, but she's very understanding that these are important long-term investments as well to keep the brand top of mind and to build its equity over time.
Great. And you talked about the qualitative and quantitative research. I'm curious about how you worked with your consumer insights team throughout the process too.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. In the marketing department, we have a stacked consumer insights team that supports not only all the campaign work that we do, but they also support a lot with product innovation and new concept development, things like that. For this in particular, we started off with focus groups. And we were still evaluating a couple of different ideas. And so we had a couple of different focus groups where we showed some rough storyboards and kind of gauged some feedback. And it was just really interesting to be sitting in the back room and hearing them discuss it and debate the ideas and even score, like, what are the things that come to mind when you see these different campaign directions. So that was kind of the first step that really helped us narrow it down in terms of which areas did we want to continue to progress forward. After that point, when we get into creative development and we're actually moving into the development of the ad spot, we're looking for things like comprehension. Like, do they actually understand the main message of the ad? Are they taking away that it's dehydration focused and that Liquid IV is a hydration product? Are they taking away the actual brand recall at the end? Would they be able to play that back to you? And then, of course, I have a lot of fun in the verbatims. So probably those of us who do consumer research, we just love to look through all the comments and the verbatims, and some of them are just so funny. And I think that's kind of the more qualitative part of formulating your gut about the work. It's, yes, the data is helpful and there are metrics that can help guide one way or the other. But when you see some of these verbatims and they're like, wow, I fell out of my chair. That was hilarious. It's like, okay, we're hunting in the right direction here. There's some really great feedback. So that's kind of also what has helped us keep moving forward.
Love that, bringing the voice of the consumer directly to your brand and to your team. Well, Stacey, this has been really an enlightening conversation to learn all about all of the great things you've been doing. I do have a little gift from Zappi. All the athletes on the field are going to be getting their rings and their trophies and all these awards. We'd love to give you a commemorative pin for your first time as a Super Bowl advertiser.
Thank you.
And anyone who on your team would like a copy of the report, we will have all the ads tested and a report going live on Monday morning after the Super Bowl. So anybody who wants a copy of that can contact us, find me, my colleagues here, and we'll be happy to share that with you. So thank you and congratulations on your first Super Bowl.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoy the spot on Sunday.
Yeah.